Setting the hook and landing the fish. The two forgotten skills in fly fishing that, learned correctly, can take you to a marginal day to a successful day. All anglers at some point in time have a hard time setting and landing fish. Let's figure this out and understand the best ways to do this.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mike at Northwest School of Fly Fishing, the old fish hobo, and I'm here today to talk to you about setting a hook, getting that fish that takes your flight, getting that set. And I also want to talk to you about landing that trout. And it's one thing to go to a river and the fishing's just slow. The trout aren't active, they're not taking your fly, they're not taking your nymph. It's just one of those days, and we all have those. But on those days, on that river, when you're floating that fly through there and you get that strike and you miss it, missed it, and then you do it again and you miss it. Those are the ones that we really got to look at, because you shouldn't be missing those fish like that. The second thing is landing the trout. We've set the hook, we have the fish on, and we're down the river, and we're fighting this fish, and all of a sudden our rod goes boom, and the fish is gone. Those are the two things. If we can fix those two problems, or at least improve on those two problems, or if nothing else, understand those two problems, then the result of that will be a little more success for you on the river. So let's first start with setting the hook. It's probably one of the top questions I get from anglers over the years, guys I fish with. I'm having trouble setting the hook. I'm having trouble sticking fish. And there's a million different explanations for what's going on. And then I hear the stories about guys who have a big fish on and it breaks off. First of all, those two things are going to happen. What we're trying to do here is give you some direction on how to improve that. So let's talk about setting the hook first. We see our fly floating down the river, and sure enough, a trout comes up, whams it, and there you go. You missed it. So let's talk about that in itself. So let's take a look at the trout first. You got to understand your fly is on top of a mirror, and these fish are triggered by the impression of that fly on the mirror. And it's not till they really gets into their window where they can really see it as well as you can underwater that they really impale that fly. So as your fly is drifting down the river, they're actually triggered into that fly, and then it can be just a quick, fast strike, and then you've missed it. Well, with the fish itself, in many of these cases, and a lot of guys have trouble setting a hook on a fish in really fast-moving water. And that's really, the trout has learned that it's a one-time opportunity. That fly's there, that food's there, gotta go quick, and it's over. So from a physics problem or something that you can really understand is that in reality, you could say that most times, a trout has a 50-50 chance of getting your fly. He's going to miss it. It's moving fast. He's got one opportunity. He's learned I got to strike fast and hard. And a trout doesn't grab your fly, it sucks it in. And so we have a 50-50 shot. And then what we do is we set too hard or too slow, and we actually pull the fly out of the mouth. And now it's a repetitive thing. So let's understand that there are two types of a set, or there's two types of a strike from a trout. One is what I call a hard, violent set, and that's when fish just hit your fly so fast. Your reaction is to do the same. Here it goes again. Wham! You do the same thing. You're trying to match exactly what the trout's doing. We all do it. You do that, and you're simply just pulling. You're just pulling the fly out of their mouth. The second one is a real soft set. And what that happens is that's in a little smaller, or not smaller, but calmer water, and the trout has time, he's not hurried, and now the trout will just come up and take it. And that's generally your larger fish. So I can really kind of define both takes, a hard take and a soft take. As a hard take is usually in fast-moving water in freestone rivers where trout are really opportunistic, and it's usually smaller trout. The other one, the nice slow take, is usually it's in calmer water, and the fish are really slow and deliberate in taking your fly. Generally, we don't have a hard time catching those slow takes. It's right there in front of us, and then we tend to match what the fish is doing. Where we have the hardest problem is in that fast-moving water, where it's bang, and you're trying to do that. And then you walk away saying, I can't stick them. So there's a hard strike and a soft strike, and that's really what we're dealing with when we define the problem of setting the hook. First, we have to look at how the trout takes it. The second thing we have to look at is the two types of strikes. And once we see that, once you see that and can understand that, then the remedies can come through. So let's get back to the trout. Trout itself, that's our target. That's certainly what we're hunting for. Trout have little or no cognitive thought. I mean, their brains are tiny little peas in their head, and they don't think like humans think. And that's the first thing that you have to understand about setting the hook, is understand that these trout have no cognitive thought. They are triggered into taking that food. So it takes them when you set your fly like that, it moves like a thousandth of a second. It's so fast, it's like a blur. And when you set real fast like that, they don't even have their mouth on it, and it's just going to come right out like that. So you have to understand that pull, that matching of the trout set, it's just instant, a thousandth of a second, and it's out of its mouth. So we need to slow that down. Again, trout don't grab a fly so much as they'll come up and suck it in and then come down. What happens when we set too hard is we're pulling the fly out. We're removing the fly from the trout, meaning it hasn't even hit the fly yet, and you've moved it away. And we do hook it. We get that hook in their lip or in their cheek, and we strike so hard that we break the fly off. I can remember here 4 or 5 years ago, I was on the Wahi River, and I caught a really large brown trout, way in that 24, 25 inch class, and it was a good fight. And when I landed him, I went to remove the hook, my fly, from his mouth, and there were 4 other flies in his mouth. So I had to remove those flies before I could move my fly. So there you have it. They were able to stick this fish, but they weren't able to land this fish. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure we stick this fish. And you have to understand too that if you strike so hard, that's a thousandth of a second you're moving that fly out of the mouth. So just knowing that, you would say to me, well, then it would be better if I err on not striking so fast. And yet you hear all kinds of ways to do this, and there's a lot of guys out there on YouTube and articles and blogs on setting the hook, and there's a million different ways to do it. And in general, you put that all into a box, you mix it all up, and we're pretty much all right in what we're saying. However, once a trout takes a fly in its mouth, it takes seconds before that trout realizes that that is not food. Then it will expel. It takes that nymph in its mouth, and in seconds before it releases that food. So what we really want to do is figure out how physically I can improve in sticking that trout. And there's a couple ways that can help you. One is obviously slow down your strike. And usually what happens with old timers like me is that first one, we do that, oh crap, okay, next one. And it's just a gentle move. A good way for you to say that it would be when you're setting the hook on a fast moving trout like that, it would be equal to the set power would be equal to getting ready to make a cast. That's a nice slow pull. There's what we call a set strike, where you hold the fly line in your hand and you see the fish take the fly, and instead you're pulling like this on your fly line. And really what we're trying to do is not to set the hook so much as to stick it in their mouth, because once that happens, the trout is going to set that hook himself. So slow down that take. For slow moving water, when the takes are a lot slower, it's almost the same thing. Just set it. There's been many occasions when I've just seen my fly going by like that, and I don't set the hook. I let the fish hit the fly, and when it's all done, my fly is still floating on the river. I don't do that with big fish, but smaller fish, and my fly will be floating down the river, and a fish will just mash it, and I won't do anything, and the fly's still floating there. That's that 50-50. Or I'll let that fly just float there. I'll let the fish take it, whoa, and then swim away, and then I'll set the hook. So there's a lot of things out there, but patience is one. Have a little more patience on your set. Some guys like to use a flick. So they'll flick the rod tip, not this flick, but a nice little flick of the rod tip. And that's going to increase your odds. So when you have a 50-50 shot to begin with, okay, and you're doing all these things wrong, your odds just go way, way down. Your percentage goes way, way down into catching that fish. So if you can take a few of these things and then really put them in your file for setting the hook, it's going to help you a lot. I've even done an experiment one time. I was on a river, fishing was incredibly good, and I was standing over a hole of about 10 fish just laying down there. I was on a freestone, middle fork of the Salmon River, and they were just laying in there, nice big 13, 14-inch cutthroat, and I'd already caught one, and I just took my fly and I cast it over them, and it was floating right through them, and I watched this fish swim all the way up from the bottom, nice soft take the fly, swim all the way down to the bottom where the other fish were, and then I set the hook. So increase your odds, be patient, set like a cast. My set is really smooth, or a slow flick, and you're going to increase your odds of catching more fish. Let's talk about landing. You've stuck the fish, you've got them on line, and you have them, you're happy. Let's talk about landing this fish. But you got to fight it first. It's one thing to land a fish, it's another thing to win the battle or win the fight. And that's really probably why we do what we do in fly fishing, is to have that battle going on between us. But again, we have to go back to the trout. We have to understand a little bit about the trout. Physiologically, it can only move forward. It can only move forward. Can't move sideways. It can only move forward. It can't move backwards. So when we set the hook, the first thing that a trout wants to do is to go straight, and that's usually up or downriver. I would say probably most often it will start up and then turn and go downriver. And now you have this fish that's got his head with the current. He has depth. He has the speed of the current, and he's got the current on your fly line to his advantage. At this point, about the worst thing that you can do, and I see so many videos of guys doing this, and I see so many videos and pictures on YouTube of guys doing this. They're going to take the rod, and they're going to take that rod straight back, get him on the reel, and that rod's just bent like that. All you're doing to that fish is this. That fly's right here, and it's back here, and that fish is going to fight it. It's going to go down like that, and there it goes, and you're like, all of a sudden, you've just lost the fish. You can't do that. So as a general rule, when a fish has its head in the current, like opposite me, his head's in the current, he has all the cards in his deck. You know, your job at that point is to try to bring him to shore and catch him. And really how we like you to do that is by bending the rod, side pressure. So I've set the hook, the fish is taken off, I then bring my rod down to like a horizontal position where I have a bent rod, but it's more in this position. And what we've just eliminated is this movement. And instead we've done this. Why are we doing that? Well, because a fish can only swim forward, and that's where it's the most powerful, and that's when we're really going to lose that fish. At that point, the strategy should be just to turn the fish, and how we turn a fish towards us is with that side pressure. You keep changing, you keep that side pressure, and eventually the fish will turn. Now you can catch the fish. It's by turning him. Now that trout can only swim forward. It can't swim backwards, can't swim sideways. It can only swim towards you, and that's when you're really doing the stripping. That's that 1-to-1 ratio we're getting. Now the rod goes up. Why does the rod go up now? Because now you have him coming towards you, and you're moving him towards you. So I've gone from a horizontal rod right here where I'm putting that side pressure on him to when I turn him, okay, then the rod goes immediately up. Now I have him right in front of me, and now the rod is in front of me, and I have him. If the trout, usually they make 1 or 2 runs, it doesn't like that, and it's going to turn and go the other way, then the rod goes back to the horizontal position where I'm releasing line. I have very little drag. And then he doesn't like that, and I turn him, and maybe he spins around and goes this way. Then I bring the rod back over that way. And then if I do get him where he's coming towards me, the rod comes up, and I'm just a stripping machine because he's coming right at me. At which point I can even back up and get him really into shore, almost beach him. And then I can net him. So I'm not saying not to do this. Keep that rod up. I'm saying do it when the fish is pointed at you and it's coming at you. Now it's to your advantage to do that. If the fish is opposite you and you're doing, you know, it's going like that, and because typically he's at an angle from you, and you're doing that, okay, that's not right. You should be doing it this way and doing it that way. So this is all about getting better at setting the hook. This is also getting better at landing your fish. But when I really look about, and the final analysis is when we have this battle going on between you and the trout, it's he who makes the first mistake loses. And you need to burn that in your brain, because as an angler with a large fish on, you know, with small fish, you can just play around with them. But when we're talking about those 13, 14-inch and on up fish, it's a battle. It's one-on-one, mano on mano, you and them. And you're trying to get that trout to make that first mistake. When trout makes that first mistake, he's lost. I've turned his head, he's coming right at me, I've got him now. Now I have you. I'm not doing anything but trying to turn him. A big, powerful trout will just shoot off down the river, and I'm going down the river after him. It's plain as simple, as far as I can. If the trout keeps going, I can't go any further, well, then you just lift the rod up. You know. So it's all about increasing your odds. There's a million ways to do things in fly fishing. 20 ways to skin a deer. I do it this way, you do it that way. This is not about, I don't do this. You do it this way. And it's not about that, because I can do it that way. We can do it other ways. What this is all about is trying to improve on a technique that maybe you can have and take to the river, and you'll catch more fish. Please, if you like this video and you go to my channel and like some of the videos I have on there, they're all instructional like this, then please subscribe. It helps me to make more videos like this. As a teacher of fly fishing for Northwest School of Fly Fishing, that's what I do. hopefully you will get some things from this video that you can use that will help you on the river, and especially for you new anglers out there and you old timers like me that are chuckling, probably laughing, yeah, that happens to me. Oh, maybe I'll try that. Maybe you'll get a nugget of that. Either way, I hope to see you both on the river.